Right, so I might as well talk you through me getting set. I've done the first 2 or 3 moves now. We're warm. Any more work before this move at this point is just taking away from the energy we need to perform the move, which is in question a stiff leg deadlift, which I will also talk you through in a sec once I find a clip. Aha, found one. I know you can't see me, just picture me walking around with a clip in my hand. That's pretty much what you get. So, a few things. Number 1, it is a stiff leg deadlift. And I don't mean slightly stiff. I mean, I'm trying to keep the knees out of the way as much as I can and primarily use my back. I don't use a belt, I don't use wraps. There may become a point when I need to, but for now, if I want a strong, resilient back, just train it in strong, resilient movements. So, shoes are off, excuse me. Shoes are off, gives you more contact with the floor. I find just less puffiness between my feet with the trainers. I'm gonna set my feet up about 1/4 to 1/3 underneath the bar. So it's over the midline of my foot almost. I'm gonna lean my chest well over the bar. Now this means I feel like I'm gonna fall forward, but the bar coming up into the pelvic area keeps it almost centered in my body. So I can focus now on keeping my legs out of the way, really locking them out. A Romanian, I'd have a bit more knee bend, I'd use a bit more hamstring and shift back into that sort of seated position here. Obviously deadlift is that. This is just no knee. Find where you need to be to get the most amount of leverage to pull. It's going to be weird the first time you try it, so start light. And then lock your hands in, lock your lats in, and just trust your back. Didn't go too bad. Okay, set 2. And as per every other time, I said I wouldn't get carried away, and here's me getting a little bit carried away. Right, so 160, 2 sets of 8. I would push to 170 or more, but he's just saying to me, Sam, I'm warning you. So I'm listening, forearm, I'm listening. Same rules apply, get nice and tight. Just find your point where everything feels tight and grooved. Take a lot of air in. If you haven't got your leg drive, you haven't got your hips, you need to have your back and your core. So pull the air in. Remember them McDonald's straws with a milkshake where it's like cement? Suck the air in, get nice and tight. Pull. Easy as pie. So you know what I said? 2 sets of 8. What I did is I lied. I do that sometimes. I just felt I'm gonna do one more round. Might as well get a feel for it. It's only the second week of loading up again after my deload, so I'm not looking to maximise here. But I might as well push to see what I've got. The grip doesn't feel too bad with this. It's more the extra flexion, the pulling in. That seems to really piss it off when I'm getting the elbow flexion involved. So with grip work, straight arm seems to be okay. Training is as much as it black and white as it is grey. You have things you should and shouldn't do. There's a lot of nuance in between that. Technique, reps, tempo, resting, loading up, when to put food up, put food down. You have your paper plan. It's when you start implementing it, you realise you are a human being. There are lots of circumstantial scenarios where one person will respond one way, one person responds another. Anyway, enough philosophy, let's just get a quick 5 out. Quick 5. So we're gonna lock in. I like the alternating grip. When I go above maybe 130, 140, I'm going for like better technique. I want to be able to remove my thought from my grip. So if I just have a bit of alternation between the grips, it locks them in, you get that sort of, what's the word? Oppositional lock. You can push the bar into each hand. It just gives me that extra 5-10% sometimes. That's all you need. Nice big breath. Legs down. Ooh. Nearly use a bit of knee there. Okay. So, the plan now says, after the warm-up routine, which was the high and wide rows and a bit of stretching, and the initial movements, the pull down, and this, which you class both as vertical pull movements. In theory, the meat and gravy is done. However, there are 2 more movements yet I want to hit. One is a single arm cable row. I like this because it allows me more rotation around the spine. The second is a seated dual arm low row. Now, on the plan it's 2 sets of each, I think, maybe 3. I'm just going to listen to how my body is. If it's not happy with it, I'll adjust accordingly. But for now, we'll just do a little sped up montage of me deloading this bar. Ready? Go. Okay, let's move on to our next row. So folks, we have here the low row. One of many row variations we have here at the Fine Establishment with Everlast. But in this case, I'm going to be using this to target the lower third of my back. I won't say specifically which muscle group because it's very, very difficult to target one muscle group. Because we're already warm, I can take advantage of that now and I can jump the queue a little bit. I'm going to start at 80 kilogram, 40 aside. And you may also notice as I set up, there's a few tweaks I make. The first one I make is to set myself up with a chest pad here so that I can sort of get myself further away from the machine. I want as much stretch for the arms as I physically can. So I don't just have the pad, I also set the chest pad back and put a block on top, a Pilates block. It just gives me that little bit more length to go on. I'm also using a handle on each arm, so the arms are fixed, there's nothing wrong with the arms. However, you want a bit more manoeuvrability, be able to play around with the path ever so slightly, just because it suits your body type, your body shape. Does not make sense to have that there, just so you can sort of get yourself comfortable. The comfier you are, the more you're going to get out the move, really, and the more likely you are to stick with it. Now, the camera is squashed between my bosom, so we'll do this set and we'll just see how it looks. I've no idea how many I go for here, I'm pretty tired. Might just go, just a minute, there we go. Now you guys can hear me properly. I've got to admit at this point, we must be over half an hour into the session, 45 minutes in. How many of you are still listening? Fuck knows. But for the one of you that's still there, look at what I can do, Mum. $15. That's still a bit sensitive, so I may just limit it to 2 sets this time. So we have one more set left to go. I'm only going to stick with 2. 4 arms starting to play ball a little bit now. Now normally I may do 3, but what I would get out of the 3rd set, which in this structure would be medium heavy, really heavy, and then light. What I'd get out of my 3rd lighter set won't make up for the potential damage and just prolonged recovery I'm going to make. It's going to cost me in the long run. So I sort of set my routines up. I'll go for a medium set, followed by a heavy set. Let me just step back a sec. When I start a session, it's warming up. It's volume, it's range of motion, it's partial reps, it's stretching, it's whatever I need to feel the area that I'm targeting mobilise and become effective and switched on, engaged. After that point, I typically go 1 medium set, then my heavy set, then if I'm feeling good and everything's in the programme lined up, I'll go for a back off. The reason being, if you can deadlift 100 kilograms, you're going to have 70, 80 kilograms throughout the year. So you can have that as your first set, the entry level set. Then when you're warm from that set, you can increase to your top set. I wouldn't go in for my max set on the first repetition. Even though you're warm and things are primed, there is just a certain intangible, unspoken layer of requirement that's needed before you max out. A bit of mental prep, a bit of physiological adaptation, just jumping into the heavy weights bit by bit, dipping your toe in the water. So in this regard, I'm doing 2 sets. This is my last set. The last set was 15 reps at 80. So I'm going to go for a 6 to 10 and just see how we do. I don't think I've touched this weight before. What's the worst that could happen? Right, breathe in. Lock in. Begin. For all you form police out there, I'm allowing that little bit of lean back because I want to have the space to bring it into my lower lat. If I was going for a mid or upper back row, I might drop the chair forward by 1 or 2, push the hips back, get more over the pad, maybe go a fraction higher, and I would stay almost moulded around the pad to really just use my upper musculature. I want my lower lats, rhomboids. I want to focus on the thick, denser muscles at the bottom. So, a little bit of a lean, line the path up, and tug.